Look around you right now. No matter where you are, an apartment, a suburban home, maybe even a dorm room, you're probably inside. And that structure, that collection of walls and a roof feels fundamental, doesn't it? It's home. But what if I told you the very first house wasn't a structure at all? What if it was a feeling, a choice, a whisper in the wind that sparked a revolution, more profound than fire or the wheel? We imagine our ancestors huddling in caves, raw and primal. And sure, caves were useful. They were natural shelters. But a cave isn't a house. It's a borrowed space. It's a temporary solution. A house, by its very definition, implies intentionality. It's built. It's designed. And for a long time, archaeologists thought they had found it, the oldest known structure, painstakingly assembled by our ancient kin over 400,000 years ago on a beach in what is now France, a simple, oval-shaped hut made of branches and hides, the first true home. Case closed, right? Except maybe not, because what if the true story of humanity's first home is far more intricate, far more scattered, and far more mind-bending than a single archaeological dig could ever reveal? What if the journey from open savanna to our modern metropolis started not with bricks and mortar, but with a decision so simple, yet so radical, that it literally changed the course of human history? The question isn't just what was the first house, but what does it even mean to have a home? And why did we start building them in the first place? We tend to think of a house as a static object, 4 walls, a roof, maybe a fence. It's a box. But for our distant ancestors, that box was a concept that took tens of thousands of years to solidify. Before any semblance of a house, there was the shelter. And the shelter came in many forms, driven by a universal human need: protection. Imagine trying to sleep on an open plain. The wind howls. Rain lashes down. Predators stalk the darkness. Survival is a constant, exhausting calculation. So early hominids used what they had: natural overhangs, thick clumps of trees, and yes, caves. For a long time, caves were the premium real estate of the Pleistocene. They offered immediate protection. They were warm in winter, cool in summer. But a cave, no matter how cozy, is still just a geological accident. You can't exactly customize it. You can't pick it up and move it when the game migrates or the season changes. And this is where the idea of a house begins to stir. The transition from a cave to a constructed shelter is like upgrading from a free public park bench to your own custom-built foldable camping chair. The chair might be simple, but you made it. You own it. One of the earliest pieces of evidence for this kind of intentional construction comes from a site called Grotte du Lazaret, also in France, dating back around 170,000 years. Here, archaeologists found evidence of a rudimentary hut inside a cave, not just occupying the cave, but a structure built within it. They found post holes, hearths, and even a bed of animal hides. It was like a condo development inside a natural cave. Why bother? Because even inside a cave, you might want privacy. You might want to define your own space, control your microclimate. These early structures weren't permanent. They were more like advanced tents, designed to be erected, used, and then abandoned. Think of a modern-day Bedouin tent, simple yet effective, or a teepee, ingeniously designed for mobility. The first house was likely a whole series of these temporary dwellings, evolving slowly over millennia. Maybe a circle of stones to hold down a hide, then a few branches leaning together. A simple lean-to against a rock face. Each iteration a tiny step towards something more substantial. But what was the catalyst that pushed us beyond these temporary fixes to something that fundamentally changed our relationship with the land and with each other? What made us say, "This is it. This is where we stay"? The answer, as with many of humanity's biggest leaps, probably lies with food. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors were nomadic hunter-gatherers. Their home was wherever the food was. It was a fluid concept, tied to the migration of animals or the seasonal bounty of plants. Building a permanent structure didn't make sense. If you were going to move in a few weeks, it was like buying a custom-fitted wardrobe for a hotel room you were only staying in for one night. But then, something clicked. Around 12,000 years ago, at the dawn of the Neolithic period, we started to figure out agriculture. We learned to plant seeds, to tend crops, to domesticate animals. And that changed everything. Suddenly, you couldn't just pick up and leave. Your food source was rooted to the ground. Your survival depended on staying put, protecting your crops, and tending your livestock. This forced sedentary lifestyle was the true architect of the first permanent houses. It's not just about having a roof. It's about making a long-term commitment to a piece of land. And this commitment, this rooting, unleashed a torrent of new ideas. Take, for example, sites like Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, often called the world's first temple, predating agriculture. It's a complex of massive carved stone pillars, arranged in circles, built by hunter-gatherers over 11,000 years ago. No houses there, just monumental communal structures. Why? Researchers think these hunter-gatherers might have come together periodically for massive feasts and rituals, coordinating their efforts to build something truly impressive. But after the party, they went back to their nomadic lives. No fixed homes, no permanent residency. It wasn't until around 9,000 BCE, in places like Jericho in the Levant or Çatalhöyük in Anatolia, that we see proper, enduring settlements. These weren't just temporary shelters. These were communities built with intention, designed for the long haul. The houses at Çatalhöyük, for instance, were packed together like a honeycomb, with no streets between them. People entered through holes in the roof, climbing down ladders into their homes. Imagine trying to get your new IKEA couch into one of those. This shift from mobile shelters to fixed dwellings wasn't just about protection from the elements. It was about defining self. It was about ownership. When you build a house, you're not just creating shelter. You're staking a claim. This is my hearth. This is my family's space. This demarcation of personal territory, whether for a single family or a larger clan, fundamentally altered social structures. It solidified the concept of the family unit, the village, and eventually the city. It meant storing food, accumulating possessions, and planning for the future in a way that was impossible for nomadic groups. Suddenly, you weren't just living day to day. You were building a legacy, one mud brick at a time. What does it do to a species when its deepest instincts shift from constant movement to profound stillness? The house became more than just bricks and mortar. It became an extension of our identity. It defined our social status, our wealth, our place in the world. Think about how much information we convey about ourselves through our homes, even today, from minimalist concrete boxes to sprawling Victorian mansions. Each one tells a story, and this all stems from that first, primal decision to stop wandering and start building. The very act of building a home changed our relationship with the environment. Instead of adapting to what nature offered, we started to bend nature to our will. We cut down trees, quarried stone, mixed mud, baked bricks. We became engineers, architects, and designers, all driven by this fundamental need for a stable, secure base. The first house wasn't just a structure. It was the foundation for all subsequent human innovation. Farming, metalworking, writing, mathematics, they all depend on a settled population, a place where knowledge can accumulate and be passed down through generations. Even now, as we push the boundaries of exploration into space, what's one of the first things we talk about building on the moon or Mars? Habitats, homes, because the drive to create a safe, controlled environment, to carve out our own little piece of comfort and security in a vast, indifferent universe, is deeply ingrained in our DNA. It's the same impulse that drove our ancestors to arrange a few branches and hides on a windy beach 400,000 years ago. So, the first house wasn't a single archaeological discovery. It was an idea, a series of small, incremental decisions that, over millennia, reshaped our brains, our societies, and our planet. It was the moment we stopped just existing in the world and started actively making a world for ourselves. And as we continue to build ever more complex, ever more advanced structures, it makes you wonder, what will the first house on another planet look like? And how will that home change us all over again?